From above, Los Angeles glows like a sunlit mirage spread between mountains and sea. Palm shadows slide across bright boulevards as morning warms a city built on motion. In the next 15 minutes, we will cross its streets and rhythms, so stay with us. But what did a single day here really feel like when the early 1950s were still new? Was Los Angeles already the capital of dreams, cars, sunshine, and endless reinvention? Or was it a fragile patchwork of orange groves, studios, freeways, and quiet anxieties? We begin at first light, where downtown towers catch the earliest gold of the day. Below them, delivery trucks rumble in, neon signs fade, and sidewalks slowly wake. Streetcars hiss at corners, newsboys unfold headlines, and cafeteria doors swing open. Before the beaches fill and the cameras roll, the city clears its throat and begins. On Broadway, marquees still glow faintly above movie palaces dressed in chrome and dust. Office clerks in pressed suits move past sailors, secretaries, porters, and shopgirls. Store windows flash radios, refrigerators, nylons, and polished hope behind clean glass. The war is over, prosperity is rising, and Los Angeles wears confidence like perfume. Yet every block reveals layers: Spanish traces, railroad wealth, oil money, new ambition. City Hall still commands the skyline, a pale monument above the hard-gridded streets. Buses exhale at the curb, while shoeshiners work under awnings striped by morning sun. At Pershing Square, benches fill with men reading papers and women guarding shopping lists. A policeman directs traffic with white gloves as horns answer from every direction. Already, the city feels less like one place than a machine stitching many worlds together. Jewelry stores sparkle beside lunch counters, pawn shops, and travel offices selling escape. In lobby mirrors, Los Angeles rehearses the image it wants the world to believe. Sleek, modern, optimistic, and always moving just ahead of whatever came before. But downtown is only one face, a formal mask worn by a sprawling, restless body. To understand the city, we have to leave the towers and follow the tracks outward. A Pacific Electric car rattles west, its red sides flashing between billboards and palms. Inside, hats tilt over newspapers, lunch pails knock knees, and gossip skips seat to seat. Through the windows, apartments, garages, churches, and vacant lots pass in quick succession. Los Angeles in the 1950s is not walked in one breath. It is assembled in fragments. Each district carries its own accent, tempo, storefront colors, and unwritten rules. In Boyle Heights, bakeries open early, and porches still hold the cool of the night. In East Los Angeles, children in neat uniforms cut through alleys toward parish schools. Laundry lines lift behind stucco houses while milk bottles wait beside narrow steps. Here, the famous sunshine feels domestic, less glamorous and more stubbornly everyday. Corner groceries stack oranges, canned soup, cigarettes, and comic books near the register. Radio music drifts from kitchens, mixing rancheras, crooners, sermons, and baseball reports. The city sells one dream on postcards, but millions live another in these side streets. That contrast matters, because Los Angeles is built as much from routine as spectacle. Its identity lies not in one center, but in endless transitions from block to block. So we keep moving, carried by rails, tires, and the expanding logic of distance. Soon the streets widen, and the automobile takes command like a new civic religion. Chrome flashes at intersections where Chevrolets, Fords, Buicks, and Packards idle in rows. Service stations bloom with bright signage, clean uniforms, and promises of speed. Used car lots stretch for blocks, their pennants snapping above hoods waxed to mirrors. Los Angeles does not simply use the car, it reorganizes life around the windshield. Drive-ins, parking lots, motels, and supermarkets spread outward with geometric confidence. The freeway, still young, already redraws neighborhoods with concrete lines and rising ramps. Surveyors and bulldozers turn open land into arteries for a future always approaching. For some, this means freedom, a wider map, a private route under the California sun. For others, it means noise, demolition, and familiar streets cut apart by progress. Even in this radiant decade, reinvention arrives with a cost someone else must bear. Yet the city rarely pauses long enough to dwell on what disappears behind it in silence. It accelerates instead, polished by petroleum, advertising, and the thrill of constant arrival. At a traffic light, sunglasses catch the noon light like tiny cinema screens in motion. Everyone seems headed somewhere important, even when the destination is simply the next block. By late morning, the road bends toward Hollywood, where fantasy is managed like industry. On Sunset Boulevard, convertibles glide past palm trunks and giant smiling faces on posters. Tourists crane their necks, hoping to catch stardust in the shadows of ordinary sidewalks. Studio gates stand guarded, hiding carpenters, extras, makeup rooms, and fabricated worlds. Here, dreams are scheduled, budgeted, lit, rehearsed, and shipped across the planet. A diner near the lots fills with assistant directors, waitresses, musicians, and hopeful actors. Coffee cups clink beneath talk of auditions, gossip columns, contracts, and overnight fame. Beauty schools promise transformation, while photographers sell the correct angle for ambition. The 1950s color palette deepens here. Cherry signs, turquoise trim, cream walls, blue sky. Even disappointment looks sunstruck, softened by bright weather and the etiquette of hope. But Hollywood is not the whole city. It is one of its most persuasive performances. The camera would notice the polish first, then the waiting, the hustling, the fatigue. Under every premier glow stands invisible labor, timed to the second and paid by the day. Still, the spell works, because Los Angeles knows how to stage desire in plain sight. And nowhere is that skill clearer than where leisure itself becomes part of the script. Westward, lawns sharpen, hedges deepen, and storefront glass grows quieter and more expensive. In Beverly Hills, the sidewalks seem measured, composed, and carefully watered into elegance. Convertibles pause before boutiques where gloves, perfume, and tailored suits signal old ease. Doormen greet women in cat-eye sunglasses while valets fold motion into courtesy. Wealth here is not loud. It is upholstered, manicured, and protected by discretion. Yet only a short drive away, subdivisions multiply over former fields and ranch land. Tract houses appear in clean rows, each with a driveway, a patch of grass, a TV glow. Backyard barbecues smoke into the afternoon as children chase bicycles along fresh curbs. Developers market a modern life of appliances, privacy, weekend mobility, and clean order. The suburban promise feels almost architectural. Order outside, comfort inside. Tomorrow guaranteed. But sameness creeps in with the convenience, repeating facades under identical weather. Los Angeles expands not as one city wall, but as a horizon that keeps retreating. Its map grows by copying itself, then tinting each copy with class, race, and access. The result is beautiful, practical, unequal, and strangely cinematic all at once. Every driveway hints at independence, yet every errand demands the same crowded roads. By afternoon, we angle south, where glamour yields to smoke, cranes, and industrial muscle. Near the rail yards, freight cars clatter past warehouses stamped with grease and dust. Workers in rolled sleeves load produce, machine parts, tires, and boxed California abundance. The port ties Los Angeles to the Pacific, sending its goods and hunger far beyond sight. Here the air tastes metallic, salted, and faintly oily under a wavering haze of heat. Ship horns echo across San Pedro while gulls tilt over piers lined with nets and cables. Longshoremen move with practiced speed, turning global trade into repetitive physical strain. This coastline is not only scenic, it is infrastructural, commercial, strategic, and hard-worked. Tank farms, canneries, refineries, and defense plants remind us what powers the postcard. The 1950s boom rests on labor often hidden beneath the bright language of leisure. Paychecks from docks and factories help fill the same supermarkets seen in suburban ads. Industry and fantasy are not opposites here. They are neighboring engines of the same city. Los Angeles sells beauty, but it also manufactures, transports, repairs, and consumes at scale. That tension gives the metropolis its shape, half dreamscape and half logistical organism. And by mid-afternoon, another version of the city is already pulling us west again. At Santa Monica, the light turns playful, bouncing from chrome bumpers to the restless water. Bathing suits brighten the sand, while lifeguard towers watch the broad Pacific breathing in. Teenagers cluster around jukebox tunes, paper cups, towels, surf talk, and easy flirtation. Families claim small territories with umbrellas, coolers, sandwiches, and striped blankets. On the pier, anglers wait patiently as children plead for rides and saltwater taffy. Roller skates click along the promenade, and beach balls rise against the enormous sky. The coast offers a public theater where bodies, fashions, and attitudes are put on display. Sunlight equalizes the scene for a moment, softening status beneath one glittering horizon. Yet even here, access is shaped by money, custom, distance, and who feels welcome. The famous California ease is real, but it is not distributed evenly across the sand. Still, the beach remains essential to the city's self-portrait. Open, healthy, forever young. Photographers chase that image relentlessly, fixing sunlight into magazines, postcards, and memory. It becomes proof that Los Angeles is less a settlement than a sensation in sunlight, a place where weather itself seems recruited to support the myth of endless ease. But evening is coming, and myths always look different once the shadows lengthen. As the sun lowers, boulevards soften under amber light and longer, slower reflections. Neon returns in stages, first a diner sign, then a theater blade, then whole corridors. Commuters stream homeward, while others dress for restaurants, clubs, bowling alleys, and bars. Tail fins catch the dusk like polished fins of tropical fish in an urban reef at sunset. Along Wilshire, department stores glow warmly, their displays arranged with persuasive calm. On Central Avenue, music spills from doorways, alive with brass, rhythm, and late conversation. Jazz rooms pulse with cigarette haze, laughter, and the intimate electricity of performance. Couples sway close, glasses lift, waiters weave, and the band keeps the night elastic. Elsewhere, television draws families indoors, reshaping evenings around the blue domestic screen. Both feel modern, and both reveal how entertainment saturates daily life here after dark. Los Angeles after dark is not quieter. It is edited into sharper islands of light. Between them lie dark residential streets, parked cars, sprinklers, and sleeping orange trees. The vastness we sensed at dawn becomes even clearer once illumination breaks into fragments. This is a metropolis understood not by borders, but by sequences of brightness and silence. From a hillside overlook, the basin spreads out like circuitry, stitched with moving fire. Downtown glimmers at one edge, the ocean darkens at another, and suburbs fill the middle. What seemed scattered all day now forms a pattern, though not a simple or gentle one. Los Angeles in the 1950s is a city of linked stages rather than a single urban core. Its shape comes from motion, from commutes, broadcasts, deliveries, tides, and rerouted desires. The movie palace, tract house, refinery, beach, and boulevard all belong to one system. So what did a day here feel like in color, moving from dawn streets to glowing night. It felt bright, expanding, seductive, productive, segregated, and never fully finished. It felt like post-war America testing its future under nearly perfect weather each day. It felt like a promise carried by gasoline, television, concrete, and performance. Beneath the sunlight stood labor, hierarchy, loneliness, invention, and relentless reinvention. That is why Los Angeles could seem both intimate and impossible in the same hour. It was not one city, but many synchronized by speed, image, desire, and distance. And that is the real color of 1950s Los Angeles. Brilliance mixed with restlessness. Tomorrow, the light will rise again, and the city will once more begin its audition.